Hey guys, in this podcast, we're going to talk about reactive discipline and how to be, disciplined around your reactions to your circumstances, your situation. And what having reactive discipline allows a man to do is stay consistent, move forward in his life despite his circumstances. And it just kind of give you a bit of context. The highest level of this is from Viktor Frankl's book, where he was in a German death camp, a Nazi concentration camp, and he was able to maintain his attitude in any given set of circumstances. So these questions will help you work out if you have reactive discipline. So it's being able to maintain your state no matter what is going on around you.
So reactive discipline, really easily explained, is you have a stimulus and then you have a response. And then in the middle there, in that gap in the middle, the moment, that's where you can react. That's where you get to decide, you get to make a choice on what attitude that you choose. So that is stimulus, response, in that gap, you make the decision.
Nicely put, Pete. So the first question is, how would you rate your ability to avoid temptations that could hinder your focus or productivity?
Oh, this is so, this self-restraint.
Okay, we've talked a lot about
this
today.
Before. Self-restraint. This is a huge one, especially for guys who've got sexual energy, and you get the urge in the middle of the day when you should be doing work, and you get an urge to go and have a wank.
Yeah.
So self-restraint here. What your ability to is? Are you being reactive, or are you going to respond in the right way?
I think if you track back to the Part X podcast, the biggest urges you'll have is when you're doing your most creative work. So really make sure you understand that one. It's a really good one. How often do you stick to one task at a time? This is a really, really good canary in the mine for how good you are at not being reactive. Because what happens is you get to a point in the work that you're doing, which is hard. You're pushing yourself. You have to think. And instead of sitting in that discomfort or that pain, you quickly want to resolve the pain by jumping to the next task or jump into something where you can start up again. And I didn't realize how important this was. I didn't even realize that multi-tabbing, having 20 tabs open on Chrome, dotting between the three, having three macro tasks that I'm doing at once just wasn't serving me. It really didn't help me. And this was a big change for me in terms of my output. As soon as I got a handle on this, my output was like 10x. Like every time I'm writing a podcast episode, single task. I sit down, my ass is glued to the chair. I do not go on a single other tab until that podcast is written. And it's really important that I do it like that. And when I'm dotting between tasks, task switching, I'm getting low level, what I would call impotent attention. Really, really important to do. Do you want to share anything on that?
Well, you just end up with 10 things half done.
Yeah. And I noticed that that's when I'm at my worst. That's like my biggest work on. I have to really work on that hard. So how good are you at creating an environment for peak focus? You're good at this. I remember I went to Pete's house and I was like, dude, this is like pretty chilled in here during the day.
Yeah.
And I was like, this was something that was a work on for me. I was like, wow, it was calm. It was quiet.
Yeah, I've just redone my office and it's like a freaking podcast studio. My mum came in there the other day. She comes around every Wednesday, look after Leo. And she came upstairs and she was like, wow. I was like, yeah, no, it's good.
There's something actually that when you put the soundboards, which we're in a podcast studio right now, when you put them in, it kills the noise in the room and it's amazing for focus. That's what I used to have them in my old office at Fast and it was like really good.
But environment is really, really important. So just like a working environment, if you've got shit everywhere, like there's fucking the messy dishes and there's crap on the floor and there's paper everywhere and like messy environment, messy mind, you can just be reactive to then what's going on around you rather than just like focused on the work.
Yeah, and this is equally if you're a manager or a leader and you've got work to do and you haven't communicated that you need a deep work time. So this is what I would say for me structurally and reactively. I had to tell my team on a Monday, don't disturb me on a Thursday. I'm doing deep work, I'm filming stuff. And I notice guys who will go and do work in places where they're going to get disturbed. You need to be proactive about setting this up. You need to be on the front foot, not reactive. Again, you say, hey guys, listen, I'm going in, don't disturb me. And equally as efficient at setting up your phone, your laptop, or whatever notifications that need to be turned off, so you can really get into the work that you're going to do. So that's a skill. It's not something that's innate. You can practice this. Okay, so as you listen to this is maybe a work on for you. How effectively do you handle work-related stress or pressure? Again, a really, really good way to see if you've got what's called reactive discipline. Can you still maintain a good level of output in your work when things aren't right at home or things aren't right in the business? Like how much does that knock you off your stride?
Yeah, part of this is being present in the moment. It's like me and Ben are doing this podcast and we are fucking present. I'm not thinking about something else. Like we're here. It's the same when we do our coaching calls with all the guys. Like my head isn't somewhere else. Like I'm there. I'm in that moment with all the guys, not thinking about anything else that's going on.
Yeah, I agree. I'm the same. Like that's one of my master skills.
Yeah, so it's
very,
presence.
very, very present when I'm single line of focus, and it's a skill. You can practice it. It's definitely worth working that out. How often do you take short breaks to refresh your focus during long periods of work? And actually, as we say this, we're coming to the third hour of doing this podcast. We've done different podcasts for 3 hours. However, I'm not going to start doing work as soon as I've finished. I'm going to give myself time to just, stop, get some food. And I think some guys think that they are Superman, that they can maintain the same level of potent attention on hour 1 as hour 10. And it isn't realistic.
No, it's not. But also, just to bring awareness to how freaking awesome I am, is that every time that we stop, so we're now on the 4th podcast. I've got up, I've walked around, I've gone outside, taken fresh air, right? I've moved my body really, really quickly, just like get the energy up. I've hydrated, make sure I've gone to the toilet, even though I didn't really need it. I'm just like, right, move, different environment, fresh air, natural daylight, back in. I've got bags of energy. I could keep going, right? So it's like rather than sitting there for 3 hours straight, bashing out 3 hours worth of podcasts, it's in between doing something. And it's the same when you do deep work.
Yeah, and equally going into that space hydrated, caffeinated to the right degree as well. Sometimes you want to have a coffee, but not too many. Making sure you're just getting the right internal and external environment. Next one, how well do you handle sudden changes or unexpected challenges without getting derailed from your task? So imagine that you are, for example, you've got a task. This is a boundaries issue, I think, to be honest, saying like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to finish this. I think, again, this is something I've had to learn over the years, is that I've got my task. If I go and rescue you from your shit, you're an employee and you come into my office and you want rescuing. If I give it my time and don't do my work, I struggle, I suffer, I have to work late. So there's a boundaries issue here that you need to overcome, but equally it's like if something goes a bit astray, how well are you, A, at keeping your state, and B, at dealing with it in a pragmatic way that doesn't sabotage your productivity, having to work late, et cetera. So do you want to share anything on that one? This is a really important one. Do you find yourself hanging on to anger or resent longer than is helpful?
That's a big one for guys. It's a big one. A bit like holding, yeah, absolutely. Say you have an argument with your missus and then you're still thinking about that 2 days later. And then it's consuming your mind, consuming your thoughts, every thought.
Yeah, and maybe not just 2 days later. For some guys, it's weeks.
Oh, yeah, 2 weeks
months,
later.
It's like, yeah. And that's what, that's a really, really great way to see, as Pete said at the start, in any given moment, we get to choose our own attitude. Like, what attitude are you choosing towards a certain relationship you have? You're making a choice to hang on to that anger. And that in itself involves work. It took me a long time to work that out and how to work on that as well. And the final one is, do you have reactive habits like scrolling, watching pornography, eating, drinking, or drug taking? And equally, those have their own depths to each of those. But do you have them? Like, I would say scrolling is maybe one that's minimalized for me now. But on the whole, I'm very, very good at minimizing this stuff. I don't watch pornography anymore. I don't eat when I'm trying to avoid work. Drinking and drug taking doesn't happen anymore. So it's like, this is the big one for me, is just really reducing that to the point where it's not impacting my energy, my focus, my time management? That's it. Yeah, it's a big one. What about you, Pete?
Dwarf porn. Can't get enough of that.
Sis.
No, I'm good.
It's niche.
Niche, yeah. Just fucking love the niche porn. I'm pretty good at it. Do you know? And one of the reasons why I'm good at it is we got our app, and one of the habits is around no vices.
Well, you said a new one that cropped up on your radar was the kind of Tinder scrolling.
Tinder.
I think for guys that could be a big one.
Tinder and but not just Tinder, like dating websites.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even just like womanizing.
Yeah.
Just just constantly going out on dates, constantly meeting women, constantly being with women. That can also be another one.
Yeah, I think we've. But they're the guys, and they're what I would say. If any of those questions really resonate with you, go and take the scorecard. It's on the show notes, and all you do is click on the link. There's 30 questions. It takes you 2 minutes, and it'll give you a detailed report on how well you are disciplined around reactions.
What is your score?
What is your score? I'd love to see what your score is. Again, if you want to share that score, just head on over to Pete_Taylor on Instagram or at Coach Benjamin Owen and share what you score, especially if you really struggled with it. That'd be an interesting one.
Yeah, because I scored highly on all of this. Tell me what you score. I want to know if you beat me.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. Pete, mine was the structural. Structural was the only one I didn't score too well on. I'm pretty good at the rest of them.